to our July meeting of the Historic Preservation Council. This is an open public meeting. It will be recorded and transcribed. So please remember to keep your microphones on mute. And I'm going to hand things over to Chairman Paul Butkus. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Good morning, everyone. I'm Paul Butkus, Chair of the Connecticut Historic Preservation Council, and I'm calling to order our July 1st, 2026 meeting. Attending this morning are the following council members: Beth Ackley, Vincenzia Doucet, myself, Paul Butkus, Thomas Elmore, Leah Glazer, Andy Horowitz, Kent McCoy, and Sarah Sportman. A quorum is therefore present. The following is the Historic Preservation Council's format and review of public comment procedures. Given the online format of today's meeting, and for those who are visitors today, I want to review and explain our procedures. The order of presentation. I'll read each motion and ask for the motion to be moved and seconded. Staff will present the agenda item to the council, and council members will have an opportunity to ask questions. If called upon by staff, a representative of the organization may offer statements or address council's questions. For members of the public who wish to speak to the agenda item, we ask that you identify yourself and your affiliation. After all questions have been addressed and statements made, a roll call vote will be taken. If members of the public have letters and/or written statements that they wish to submit to the record, please email them to Jonathan Kinney at jonathan.kinney@ct.gov. The Historic Preservation Council takes statements from members of the public but does not respond to questions. Lastly, please only address the particular agenda item being discussed at that time. Following is the Historic Preservation Council's policy regarding conflict of interest. The Historic Preservation Council votes on matters which provide leadership, service, and economic benefits to property owners, consultants, local governments, and not-for-profit organizations. Given this responsibility and to maintain the highest professional standards in the discharge of our duties, it's important to maintain a strong code of ethics for all council members and department employees. In order to avoid possible violations of the Department of Economic and Community Development Ethics Statement, it's necessary for the Council to be aware of any situations in which there is a real, potential, or apparent conflict of interest involving anyone here. A conflict of interest may occur when a public official's participation in agency matters results in personal financial gain. All Council and staff have been provided a copy of the Department of Economic and Community Development Ethics Statement and governing state statutes. Having reviewed them in today's agenda, members of the council and staff are now asked to disclose any affiliation with entities or projects that may create a conflict of interest as defined by agency policy and pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes I-79 through I-89, entitled Code of Ethics for Public Officials. Once disclosed, the member or staff may recuse themselves from that particular agenda item. Having read the statement, are there any council or staff members that would like to disclose a conflict of interest to any of the items on today's agenda? Seeing no hands raised, we will move to the next item. Item 4A, the review and approval of meeting minutes. The meeting minutes were provided to council members via email from Jonathan Kinney. Are there any corrections? Seeing no comments, can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved, Kent.
And a second?
Beth Ackley, second.
Okay, roll call vote. Beth Ackley,
Aye.
Via Doucet,
Abstain.
Beth hasn't joined us, right, Jonathan? I'll abstain.
No.
Okay. Tom Elmore?
Aye.
Leah Glazer?
Aye.
Andy Horowitz?
Aye.
Kent McCoy?
Aye.
And Sarah Sportman?
I'll abstain.
The motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Moving
Paul,
on. Yes.
Paul, sorry to go out of order here, but yeah, for the conflict of interest for the state register nomination, I don't know if this is a conflict or no. I'm friends with the owner and I helped facilitate the person connecting them up with somebody who could write the state register nomination, but I'm not getting any financial benefit from this listings. but I can recuse myself if,
If
I don't know what you guys think.
I don't think it's necessary, but if
Okay.
it-
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think so either on that one. Thanks for that, Leah.
We're all advocates.
Mhm.
Okay. Our next action item are Section 5 or state preservation grants. Agenda item 5B1. I'll read the motion. The Historic Preservation Council votes to award a survey and planning grant funded by the Community Investment Act of the State of Connecticut to the below listed applicant and the amount shown. All grant guidelines and state requirements shall be met by the below listed applicant upon receipt of a grant as administered by the Department of Economic and Community Development. Staff recommends the application for funding. The applicant is the town of Greenwich, and the project is consulting services of a CFR qualified archaeologist to prepare a geophysical survey for human burials at Coscob Mill Pond Park dating back to 1725 at Strickland Road in Greenwich. The amount requested is $7,500. Could I have a motion to approve?
Beth Ackley, so moved.
And a second?
Second, Kent.
Q discussion?
Great. Good morning, everybody. Staff recommends approval of this application. You may recall, I think it might have been last December, you saw the local historic district study report for the expansion of the Strickland Road district in Greenwich. And part of that application, part of the significance was a former burial ground. So they are looking for additional information. Our staff archaeologist did look at it as well. It's within the parameters of the grant guidelines. So we recommend approval. Andrew Melillo from the town is not here, but I'll be happy to answer any questions or concerns.
Thank you, Mary. I'll start it off. Since the site is actually, just over the 1 acre limit for the funding, would it be possible for the town to actually kick in just a little bit extra to complete the whole thing, even if they ask for it as an ad alternate? Since everybody is going to be already on site, it's just it would be a shame to kind of miss something. You're talking 10,000 square feet, so it's just kind of a very minor little.
Exact precisely. We fully expect them to do the whole, I think it's like 1.2 something acres. There's also some additional stuff, and I see Corey's got his hand up. Some additional things they want that aren't traditionally part of this that they will also put in as adults, and they will cover the cost of anything over that.
Okay, great. Corey?
Hi, good morning. Yes, I'll just add that the 1 acre guideline is a parameter of the program, but that's more of a general guideline that takes into account how much survey can be accomplished for the maximum grant amount. But it's largely dependent on field conditions, and in this case, it's a pretty grassy, flat, open area, which would, allow maybe that money to go a little further than it would be if it was a 1 acre in a forest environment where there's a lot of interference from the tree cut.
Yeah, but it seems as though the applicant could cover any additional cost.
Of course, they could cover any additional cost if it were to run above that, but that is definitely a factor to consider. It's largely dependent on field conditions.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, and they've confirmed that, especially because of the other things they're asking for that aren't traditionally part of the program. So they will cover the whole thing.
Okay. Yeah.
Above 7,500.
Great. Comments or questions from other council members? Seeing no hands raised, you can move to roll call vote. Beth Ackley,
Aye.
Via Duce,
Aye.
I'll abstain. Tom Elmore,
Aye.
Leah Glazer,
Aye.
Andy Horowitz,
Aye.
Kent McCoy,
Aye.
and Sarah Sportman.
Aye.
The motion carries. We wish them well.
Thank you.
Next agenda item is 5B2. The Historic Preservation Council votes to award a survey and planning grant funded by the Community Investment Act of the State of Connecticut to the below listed applicant in the amount shown. All grant guidelines and state requirements shall be let me start over. All grant guidelines and state requirements shall be met by the below listed applicant upon receipt of a grant as administered by the Department of Economic and Community Development. Staff recommends the application for funding. The applicant is the Stamford History Center, and the project consulting services of a CFR qualified historical architect / structural engineer team to prepare a conditions assessment of the Hoyt Barnum House dating to 1699 at 150 Ridge Road in Stamford. The amount requested is $5,000. Can I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve, Leah.
And a second?
Second, Ken.
Discussion.
Great. So staff does recommend approval of this application. As noted in the notes, this building was actually relocated in 2017, and with the coordination of our office and the National Park Service, it retained its listing on the National Register. At that time, obviously, a very comprehensive condition assessment was done prior to the move, along with drawings, so that when it was, put back in place, we would have an idea of the situation. What the organization is asking for is an assessment of things they've noticed since that move, which was about 9 years ago, and also an opportunity to put in place sort of a maintenance plan. The house is not very large or complex. They're only asking for 5,000 with a match of 5, which, as we've discussed before, that's not a lot. So they will have to cover anything that if they get bids higher than that. But it's not a they already have a lot of documentation. They have full drawings and everything. So I don't believe it will be the traditional comprehensive assessment as we usually see. But we do recommend approval of the application. And I don't think Dr. Tom Zubek is here from the Stamford History Center, but I'll be happy to answer any questions or concerns.
Thank you, Mary. Beth Ackley?
I have a comment and a question that may be too specific for an answer here, but I'll give it a shot. Comment is one way to potentially get the fee to match, I think intent here is in the proposal to call it an update of the conditions assessment. And then it doesn't, it sort of implies that it's not starting from fresh, and it's just bringing in all the things that are still the same and then just looking at things that have changed. And that tends to help a little bit. So that's the comment. And then the question is, Mary, do you know if the I know they were concerned about cupping of the clapboards. Do you know if those were replaced? I mean, they're most likely replacements. Were those replaced as part of the move, or?
I don't think so, actually. It was moved pretty whole. I mean, like they didn't, one thing that they did mention was that that its new placement presents different conditions, environmental conditions, especially as far as light and things like that. And I think that's what they're thinking is happening.
Okay.
And I know that I appended like all of the information from 2017, which I did not actually read all of. But I don't believe that they actually did a lot of, once it was in place, I don't think they did a lot of rehab or things like that.
All right. Well, just something to put out there too, that the cupping looks like it might be from replacement clapboards that weren't quarter sawn.
Okay.
So just a thought, but
Great.
That's it.
Thank you.
Yeah, you raising your hand? Yep.
Yeah. I just some small things. There's a lot of history here, but if you could just put in the application part that it's significant under criteria C, it's on the National Register, and that also that somewhere in there it calls it the National Registry, and just to
Oh, I know, yeah.
make it register.
Yeah.
So just just for some clarity, again, to understand why this is really important, that it's significant under that architecture. And that's why it's important.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? I have like a non-specific question to the actual scope. I read in their description that the History Center is the municipal historian for the city of Stamford. I was under the understanding that this
usually an appointed.
it was a person, not a
Yeah.
organization.
I can clarify that with them.
Just an interesting
Yeah,
aside.
it's usually yeah, you're right. It's usually an appointed person if they have one at all. And I think even the state statute sort of clarified that the historian is a person. So I will. It might be an ex officio director of the Stanford History Center is the historian, but I can clarify that. Sure.
Interesting. No, it's a good place for it to live. Just
Yeah.
wanted to find out for other reasons, but anyway.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so we can move to the roll call vote. Beth Ackley,
Aye.
Via Duce, thank you. I'll abstain. Tom Elmore,
Aye.
Leah Glazer,
Aye.
Andy Horowitz,
Aye.
Kent McCoy,
Aye.
and Sarah Sportman.
Aye.
The motion carries. We wish them well.
Thank you.
Next agenda item is 5B3. The Historic Preservation Council votes to award a local preservation partners grant funded by the Community Investment Act of the State of Connecticut to the blue listed applicant in the amount shown. All grant guidelines and state requirements shall be met by the blue listed applicant upon receipt of a grant as administered by the Department of Economic and Community Development. The applicant is New London Landmarks, and the project funding to support 1-year local preservation plan for New London Landmarks. The amount requested is $50,000. Could I have a motion to approve?
Beth Ackley, so moved.
And a second?
Tom, second.
Thank you, Tom. Discussion?
Staff recommends approval of this application. As I think all of you know, Local Partners Grant was institutional support for capacity building, which was basic operating support. So it's sort of evolved to cast a broader net for eligible applicants. But New London Landmarks has been a recipient of this grant in its many forms for a number of years. This is the second year they're applying for the Local Partners Grant under this iteration. They did a great plan last year, a very good job of tracking it on a quarterly basis. And I think they've presented a good plan this year. So we do recommend approval. And Violet Johnson, who's the executive director, is here in case you have any questions about their plan that I can't answer.
Thank you, Mary. Leah?
Oh, it shouldn't be, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, it's from before.
Comments or
I
questions?
double
from
clicked, yeah.
Council members? Just in general, Mary, how many people do we have or organizations participating in this program?
Currently just 2, New Haven Preservation Trust and New London Landmarks. In the past, Hartford Preservation Alliance has been a recipient, but they've not applied yet. And these are our local partners, our literal local partner organizations. But we tried to expand the program to include, smaller projects or smaller groups that may not be traditional preservation partners, but are doing preservation projects. But so far, we have not gotten any bites. So we might want to advertise it a little bit more or or sometimes when, you know, we do get obviously tons of inquiry, and usually the projects fall under a different umbrella. You know, we just haven't had an opportunity yet.
So
Thanks.
I do have a question on this one. So this is just mainly operating costs, because I felt like that wasn't clear, because it talks about a preservation plan, but it talks, it's not really, but it describes activities that.
That's
I
exactly,
don't know,
that was,
I'm confused.
yeah, that
Mhm.
is the new, I hate to keep reusing the word iteration. That is the new format, is that it was just expenses. Oh, we'll pay your rent, we'll pay your this, we'll pay your that. But now we wanted to have a more meaningful relationship. And so we wanted just to have a deeper look at the actual projects and activities of the organization. We do fund salary, you know, and we do fund expenses associated with the projects or activities. Frankly, it does end up being salary because you can't do these things without, you know, a dedicated staff person. That's how it's fallen. But we just wanted to sort of just tweak it so that it was a little bit more, instead of paying expenses, we wanted to know exactly how you were engaging with your local community and your local government, and
But I
this
guess
just
the way
tracks it better.
the way it's written, it talks about that this funding is for a preservation plan, but not in the formal sense, right? Like not.
Maybe preservation plan isn't but it does map out what they plan to do.
Mhm.
And preservation, you know, is and more in a interpersonal sense, like what will, you know, and especially in this application, they map out what is our public engagement, how are we going to engage with local elected officials, and all of that, of course, results hopefully in you know, more effective preservation efforts.
No, I get that, and I have no problem with the activities. I was just confused by, when I think of a
Mhm.
preservation plan, it's something kind of more formal, like um this is what you have, this is what you should do first and second and
Oh,
third.
right, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, we can, you know, adjust the wording a little bit more, because maybe that's confusing, you know, to some potential applicants. Maybe they're looking at it like that too. So that's a good point. But
And usually
in
like
this,
a consultant does that. Yeah. So
right. Yeah. No, that's maybe we should just call it preservation activities or preservation engagement or something like that. But we can, that's a good point. Okay.
yeah. So that was my confusion when I started reading it.
Gotcha.
This doesn't sound like that. Okay.
All right. That makes sense. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Beth Ackley.
Question for Violet, if you're here. I don't see you on my part of the screen, but I was curious how this year's activities that you've planned have evolved from last year's, as you know, what things, what are one or two things that are have, you know, you've been able to refine or think differently about, or anything like that?
Of course. Thank you, Beth. I'm going to qualify this with two answers. I hope you don't mind. So this is both building on last year, but also building on a larger sense of what New London Landmarks has done before my arrival. So for some of our activities that are planned for this year, you'll note that they have a lot to do with continuing to work with homeowners that we have supported and encouraged last year. You'll note that the homeowners we've worked with to award and celebrate their restoration, we're hoping to use them as a jumping off board to better communicate and assist other homeowners with restoring and utilizing historic homeowner tax credits through their connections in their neighborhoods, because we found that these two specific buildings, which were recipients of our historic homeowner awards that Landmarks gives out, have started conversations in their neighborhoods, and the large Victorian homes that are difficult to upkeep economically in New London have been one of our major concerns because it's so easy for them to fall into disarray. The other would be something like our resiliency workshop for downtown Bank Street, which is right on the water for those who are not familiar with New London. This was something that was not run last year, so this is not answering your question perfectly, Beth, but we ran an event in 2019 on rising tides. But as we deal with further climate issues in New London and in Connecticut in general, we're going to need to expand that conversation to other forms of damage that can be caused by these changing climates, like the damage to and loss of our historic church, which was caused in part by, I think you might agree with this, Beth, if I was understanding your lecture correctly, variances in temperature worsened the condition of the building. Did that help answer your question at all?
It does. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
A little long-winded.
Nope, that's great. Thanks.
Any other comments or questions from council members? If not, we can move to the roll call vote. Beth Ackley,
Aye.
Via Duce,
Aye.
I will abstain. Tom Elmore,
Aye.
Thea Glazer. You're muted, Leah.
Aye, sorry.
Thank you. Andy Horowitz,
Aye.
Kent McCoy,
Aye.
and Sarah Sportman.
Aye.
The motion carries. We wish
Great,
them
thank you.
well and look forward to lots of advocacy there.
Thank you very much.
Next agenda item is 5B4. The Historic Preservation Council votes to award a certified local government historic preservation enhancement grant funded by the Historic Preservation Fund of the Department of the Interior National Park Service to the below listed applicant in the amount shown. All federal and state grant guidelines and requirements shall be met by the below listed applicant upon receipt of a grant as administered by the Department of Economic and Community Development. The applicant is the town of Suffield, and the project is consulting services of a CFR qualified historic preservation consultant to update the Suffield Historic District Commission Handbook. The amount requested is $20,000. Can I have a motion to approve?
Yeah, look forward to it. Thank you too.
So moved, Kent.
Thank you, Kent. And a second.
Beth Ackley, second.
Discussion.
Staff recommends approval of this application. This is federal funding from the CLG pass-through grant. And I'm not sure when Suffield last updated their design review guidelines, and it's also a sort of a commission handbook, but it's essential both so that the commission can be consistent in their review and decisions, and also transparent to the property owners in their district as to what's required of them. So we do recommend approval. Chad Kozankowski is here from the town. I believe he was, in case you have any questions that I can't answer.
Yep, I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Comments or questions from council members? Beth Ackley.
This might be more of a question for Mary. I'm sure every community, I know every community is a little different in what they're looking at and their specific resources in their municipality. But that said, are there any templates that sometimes these can be built off to help with efficiency and completion, or thoroughness?
Sure.
Thoroughness is the word I want.
Yeah, well, not a template per se, but in the recent past and over the last couple of years, we have funded and gotten some very good examples of design review guidelines, and a lot of them are incorporating, newer concerns that, in the olden days, like solar, resiliency, sustainability, things like that. So I can provide those as an example. We can also, in the RFP, list out exactly the types of the topics that we want to make sure are in there. Yeah, they're not just kind of, they're much broader these days. And so the RFP would reflect that. And then we can certainly provide examples of recent ones that are, especially illustrative of what we're looking for.
I think that could only build a better product, because then
Yeah.
people are essentially building off of and improving things that have been done before. I think that's great to be able to share those.
Additional comments or questions? I'll just ask one, Mary. Does the SHPO office review the guidelines prior to release to make sure that basically that they're not going too far in mandating certain things that may
Oh,
be
of course, yeah.
stretching the text, and
Yeah, definitely. And you'd be surprised at what I've found that, needs to come out or it needs to go. Yeah, definitely. It's in the contract with our grantees that they don't get paid until the product is reviewed and approved. And especially when it comes to design review guidelines, sometimes folks like to put stuff in that just is not legal, or not allowed by state statute. Not that it's illegal, it's just not, best practices, or it's just not provided for. And so, yes, we definitely review and approve.
Right, because I know there's some instances where if there's been adoption of a village district overlay, you can actually push it a little bit further than you would under just the regular historic regulations, but it's a separate process. So
Yeah,
understanding those kind of little channels of where regulations are applicable or not might be a good thing just to double check.
yeah. And in those instances, and very often a local district is also a national register district, which imposes no restrictions, and so it's good in the forward or the preface to kind of explain what the designations are that this particular area falls under and what they mean. And especially when there's a village district, it is a little different. And that's why very often we said preservation consultant, but very often it could be a preservation planner, because they have an understanding of how all of the different local zoning and ordinances interplay with each other in a specific town. So it's a little, it can be complex, but we try to map it out so that people have an understanding.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? If not, we can move to a roll call vote. Seeing no hands raised, Beth Ackley,
Aye.
Via Duce,
Aye.
I'll abstain. Tom Elmore,
Aye.
Leah Glazer,
Aye.
Andy Horowitz,
Aye.
Kent McCoy,
Aye.
and Sarah Sportman.
Aye.
The motion carries. We wish them well.
Thank you very much.
Our next agenda item is 5B5. The Historic Preservation Council votes to award a certified local government historic preservation enhancement grant funded by the Historic Preservation Fund of the Department of the Interior National Park Service to the below listed applicant in the amount shown. All federal and state grant guidelines and requirements shall be met by the below listed applicant upon receipt of a grant as administered by the Department of Economic and Community Development. The applicant is the City of Hartford, and the project is funding to support outreach, education, and technical assistance for historic front porch preservation. The amount requested is $20,000. Can I have a motion to approve?
Approve, Tom.
And a second?
Second, Kent.
Discussion.
Staff recommends approval of this application. It seems specific, but I think as many of you may know, certain building elements are more vulnerable than others, windows especially, but it's becoming kind of unsettling how often historic front porches are either disappearing or being altered inappropriately. And so I guess it was getting to the point in Hartford that they wanted to start an incentive program to sort of educate people and also incentivize. Now, the sub-grants are not being funded by our office, A, because this is federal funding, and B, we just it's not something that we can do. So they are covering that portion that they mentioned, but it is part of their program. So I left it in the application. And even though this is specifically addressing front porches, I think it hopefully raise broader awareness of just preservation of buildings in general, and especially outbuildings like historic garages and things like that, and carriage houses, so that people just get a more awareness of what preservation is and why the preservation of historic features is important. So I think it's we think it's a good project. And so we hope that you will approve. So, and there's nobody from the town here, the city, but I'll try to answer any questions or concerns that you have.
I'll kick it off. Mary, I'm familiar with other municipalities where you have things like the inspections for rental properties coming through, and those city inspectors come in and say, hey, your railing is too short. You need to replace the railing in order to get a permit to rent out your thing, or the spacing is too wide and it doesn't comply with codes. And in order to rent your building out, you've got to replace all of that stuff. So you get one hand not knowing what the other hand is doing. So this is one of those areas where it would be good to have the city making sure that their own inspectors are on the same page with all of the other regulations, and that it's not just outreach to the people, because if an owner is being told that you're not going to be able to rent your building unless you do X, Y, and Z, or it has lead paint, and in order to get rid of the risk, you've got to put vinyl siding on or something stupid. It's sort of if you can pass along the concern that it's not just the owners becoming aware of it, but that there's nothing happening on their side that could be forcing people to do things the wrong way. So if they are putting together this kind of playbook or kind of scenarios of what to do, it's like, okay, if there is a concern about the railings being too short, will they have examples of how can things be modified to address some of those concerns, and not just say, you got to keep it exactly the way it is, because they're going to be at loggerheads.
Right. No, that's a great point. And even though the application is obviously coming from the city, as we all know, cities don't always talk to each other. So yeah, or city entities. But that's a great point. And as you also point out, so many code or health or safety violations can be corrected and still meet the Secretary of the Interior standards. It's just a matter of working with the owner. So yes, that's yeah, I will pass that along.
Thank you. Tom Elmore.
Yeah, Mary, I have a quick question for you. So do I understand that the outreach, education, and technical assistance for this money is really for reimbursement of staff time and materials? What is this really for?
It would be for, publication materials. And I think because it is very public facing and public heavy, there would be documented staff time. I mean, we're not just going to hand over, but a majority of it is for hiring a consultant to put together the technical manual. And that, so let me just double check. What are you seeing?
Well, right in the project,
staff
no,
time?
right in the project description, it says funding to support outreach, education, and technical assistance.
Okay. Right. Okay, I get what you're saying,
but then that, down below it says staff note, it's not to be paid for physical work is basically how I'm reading that.
Well, they mentioned the small cash incentive programs that they're going to offer owners. Those are not being funded by this grant. The majority of the funding is going to hire someone that will write, guidelines that meet the Secretary of the Interior standards. And then I think they did have an admin line item, but they don't just get $2,000 worth of admin. They have to show that, somebody spent specific time and was paid this specific amount for this specific task. But I think most of it is going to the, I mean, I know most of it's going to the consultant, not staff.
All right, no, that's great. I think it's valuable because I agree with what you said about porches disappearing.
It's, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Beth Ackley.
I just wanted to, Paul's point was excellent, and I just wanted to add to that, you know, there's sometimes a structural component. You know, you have a certain 50-pound per linear foot lateral load that the building department's looking for. I don't have the answer to how to solve that, but at least provide in the guidelines some acknowledgement of a process to get through that. And I love the idea of providing some examples, because that is a classic challenge, not just with the height, but with the strength too.
Yeah, that's, yeah. I had not even thought of that, but yeah, yeah, I will.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, okay.
Todd, you have a comment?
Yes, just one point to add too is that if a building is historic, it's eligible to get modifications to building and fire code. So just that point should be made to while the process of developing this you know, information and education is shared, that they have options to go through the state and building departments at the state level to help them go through the process of getting modifications, so that you can indeed, you know, keep the historic fabric. And there's options and modifications you can make to the project so that you don't have to destroy or remove entirely historic fabric.
It's just making it clear what those processes are in this document, that if they have to go that route, it's not going to be as straightforward as whatever. So that kind of building the awareness within the other inspection realm. You know, so you don't get somebody saying, you need to do this, you need to tear it off and replace it with, you know, a Home Depot panel. You know, makes a lot of sense.
Knowing you have options is important.
Yeah. V.
I think I just wanted to add to it that I like that they're actually getting a designer, architect to provide the examples. I think it's very helpful for especially developers that do own historic buildings to be able to learn and get options to be able to preserve these porches. So for that.
Thank you, V. Any other comments or questions? If none, we can move to a roll call vote. Beth Ackley.
Aye.
Via Toussaint.
Aye.
I'll abstain. Tom Elmore.
Aye.
Leah Glazer.
Aye.
Andy Horowitz.
Aye.
Kent McCoy.
Aye.
And Sarah Sportman.
Aye.
The motion carries.
All right,
We
thank
hope
you
it's
so
a
much.
raging success.
Keep you posted.
Okay, our next agenda item is under category 6, State Register of Historic Places nomination. So agenda item 6B1, a nomination for Whitneyville Fire Station at 39 Putnam Avenue, Hamden, to the State Register of Historic Places. The Historic Preservation Council votes to list Whitneyville Fire Station located at 39 Putnam Avenue, Hamden, to the State Register of Historic Places. Could I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Beth Ackley? Oh,
I'll second.
Okay. Beth Ackley motion and Leah Glazer second. Discussion.
Good morning, everybody. Staff recommends approval of listing of the Whitneyville Fire Station located at 39 Putnam Avenue, Hamden, to the State Register of Historic Places under Criterion 1 at the local level in the area of community planning and development as an example of a local municipal building constructed during a period of rapid development within the neighborhood of Whitneyville, and under Criterion 2 as an intact example of a storefront style firehouse designed in the colonial revival style. The property maintains the majority of its location, setting, design, materials, workmanship, feeling, and association of a neighborhood firehouse constructed to meet demand during a period of rapid growth. Amelia Mower, author of the nomination, is here to help me answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Marina.
Also present is Chair of the Hampden Historic Properties Commission, Todd Levine.
Are there comments or questions from council members? Marina, I'll just throw out one, based on some of our other recent activities. When we talk about the integrity and modifications, when we see big changes that you go from a round-topped window to kind of infill with a standard double hung or whatever it was going through. Can you just comment on the spectrum of allowable modifications to still get the classification of general integrity and things like that?
Sure. Yeah. So referring to National Park Service Bulletin number 15, applying the criteria for eligibility. There are 7 aspects of integrity. A property usually maintains most, but is not required to meet all aspects of integrity. The important thing is to make sure that the property conveys the significance during the period of significance, and you are able to easily read that. So in the areas of criterion 1, which is mostly associated on the National Register with A, we're talking about history, and what we have present here is absolutely the location, also the setting of the burgeoning urban area of Whitneyville as it was rapidly developing, necessitating the construction of this particular firehouse in 1927. The design is also easily read, particularly the massing. Even though the windows themselves have been replaced with sashes, we now have a blind fan arch that is there, so you're still able to read that. The masonry is still there. The front door is still there. The garage doors that are obviously very important to the operational utility of a firehouse, while not there, have been enclosed, have been changed, but again, the fenestration pattern is still readable. And then on the other elevations, which is a little bit hard to see because again, we're in an urban setting and so they're very close to each other in the lot line, we still have a lot of the original sash there. And as well as on the interior, when we're looking at spaces, our main spaces all still remain. Our main staircase is still open and functional as it was. We have large spaces on the first floor, and then we also have an assembly space, which was also important for the social. And I would be remiss if not to mention the very important bowling alley in the basement, which is also still there, still extant. And we didn't get a chance to bowl. SHPO staff, both me as a state register coordinator and Jenny as a national register coordinator, were able to take a site visit. And so that is all intact and can confirm that while I did not bowl, it is functional. So I think that, Paul, I think that pretty much talks about all of the integrity aspects here that sufficiently convey the significance. To your point, there didn't appear to be enough integrity after visiting with the National Register coordinator to meet National Register level significance, but for the state register, we definitely have enough integrity here to sufficiently list it. I will also add that we were also looking at maybe doing a multiple property documentation form for firehouses within Hampden, because there are other firehouses, as is noted in the nomination. There's another one right off Central Avenue that is very similar from a similar period of time, and that's all in these neighborhoods that are experiencing an explosion of population at that turn of the 20th century. So we are looking into doing that too.
Thank you, Marina. That's helpful. Andy.
I welcome this nomination. I have two things. One, I think, Marina, just that last thing, the explosion of population in the 20s, I think is not quite in this document, and you might include something about the sort of growth of the suburbs here, Hampden being a real quintessential and important Connecticut suburb.
Yeah.
That's sort of a big thing that would be easy to achieve, I'm sure, with the knowledge you have on hand. The other thing, squinting at the picture of the precious and beloved bowling alley, if I can tell from the bowling balls from the picture, it's a duck pin bowling alley.
Oh, it's duck
yeah,
pin.
and that's not in the form either. And
All
that's
right.
a regionally specific, historically contingent form of bowling. And I will not stand for a duck pin erasure in my watch
ask my grandma.
council. Yes.
Neither would my grandmother. So you got it, Andy.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Leah.
Yeah, I agree about the duck, just specifying the duck pin bowling, although I will also verify that I have thrown a bowling ball down there, so it is functional. And just add, even though I know it's not relevant to the listing, but the owners do hope to restore the garage doors and are sensitive to, all those character defining features that were diminished before they purchased the property.
Yeah,
So,
and
yeah.
what's also great is that the Hamden has a robust volunteer fire association group of historians. And they publish one of those Images of America books, and so there's a lot of great historical documentation for this building in particular.
I will also add that the town for years, there is another firehouse that they've been really interested in doing something with. So I do really like the idea of the multiple property nomination.
Yeah, I think it's very similar to when we kept listing schoolhouses out in the western part of the state. And every time one came up, it was, when are we going to do a multiple property? Happy, and I'm happy to do one, just as long as somebody submits that.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? If not, we can go to the roll call vote. Beth Ackley?
Aye.
Via Duce?
Aye.
I'll abstain. Tom Elmore?
Aye.
Leah Glazer?
Aye.
Andy Horowitz?
Aye.
Kent McCoy?
Aye.
And Sarah Sportman?
Aye.
The motion carries.
Thank you so much.
Okay, moving right along. We jump down to item 9, our threatened properties SEPA updates from Todd Levine.
Good morning, everyone. I have 3 updates for you. Last month, we didn't get an update, but this is for Willimantic 956 Main Street. That it had been referred by HPC to the Attorney General's office. After a site visit, we had brought a structural engineer to the site, Gale Structural Engineers, and they had produced a structural analysis report on May 21st. Agreeing that the building had too much loss of integrity to be a good candidate for an injunction. So we worked with the owners and the local museum to come up with some stipulations for mitigation for the loss, which included salvage for a lot of the important structural components and historic components that remained in the historic building, as well as allowing for the museum to take some pieces so they could do an exhibit, as well as locals. And they hired a salvage company to pull out some of those summer beams and nice big historic chestnut beams that were so important to that building. So we did have an agreement with the Attorney General on May 22nd. The salvage company has come in and they've taken all the parts away and the building has come down. So that concludes 956 Main Street in Willimantic. An update on New Haven, Howard Avenue. We continue through the Attorney General's office to negotiate with Cornell Hill Scott for a save for the building, 649 Howard Ave. We just extended the temporary moratorium to July 15th. Right now, it seems like they are leaning towards finding a way to rehab the building for their own uses rather than to lease or sell it to one of the nonprofits that had expressed interest in taking over the building or leasing or buying. So that's ongoing, but it seems promising. We just got an update the other day. And then lastly, Essex, which is why we didn't have a report last month rather, because we voted to refer this matter to the Attorney General. The AG got a temporary injunction on June 12th. You may recall that June 16th was when the demo delay would run out. So we now have an injunction, a temporary injunction through August 12th, which is the date of our hearing. There'll be an actual hearing where myself, our structural engineer, our historic architect, and potentially Jenny Schofield will be on the stand to defend our affidavits. And I'm happy to answer any questions about any of those three. And also that we have another one that is in the works. So we may have something coming up next month as well.
Thank you, Todd. Any comments or questions from council members about any of those projects? Seeing none, we can move right along to item 11, a report from Jonathan Kinney on the State Historic Preservation Office.
Good morning, everybody. Let's see what we have here. I just wanted to take a quick minute to thank all of the council members who attended our statewide plan webinar on the 12th. Really appreciate you all coming out. We had a really great event, good turnout. I think we had over 80 people present, and we did a little sneak peek at the plan, went over the new goals and objectives, and that will be released very, very shortly. So thank you again for attendance and for all of your contributions to that document. Second, as I mentioned last month, I wanted to just quickly run through HPC membership terms and where we're at with all of that. I need to been a little remiss in some updates, so I am actively working on that. Let me share my screen with you so you can see where you all stand. I hope you can all see this. Everyone in green is serving on an active term that is good to go. Marguerite and Tom's second term do wind up in December. So we will be looking for folks to step into those positions should Marguerite and Tom step down then. Sarah and Andy, there is no escape for. You are on the council concurrent with your appointments to state archaeologists and state historians, so you're fine. Paul, Deanna, and Kent are all fine. Paul, you are already in your second term. Deanna and Kent are still well within their first terms. Beth Ackley, V, and Beth Burgess have all completed their first terms of service. Those are the names highlighted in yellow. And I have reached out to the governor's office earlier this week to get reappointment letters just to make sure that that is all formalized and above board. But you are fine in your second terms. And then through absolutely no fault of her own, you see Leah highlighted in red there, and she has very graciously continued to serve on an expired second term. But we are actively searching for a new member to fill that role so that Leah can have her time back. But I appreciate that. Any questions on that? And like I said, I will follow up with you guys as soon as I hear back from the governor's office on those reappointments. And then finally, I just wanted to take a minute to wish everyone a very happy and healthy and safe 4th of July weekend. I hope you all have a great time celebrating however you go about doing that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, next item is item 12, the report on museum properties from the Shapiro.
Hi, everybody. I've been scrawling stuff. Things have been so busy at the museums that unless there's a problem, I generally don't hear from them, which makes me very, very happy. But it's been really, we've had really busy seasons, and everything has been extremely, all the workshops and programs have been extremely well attended. So at the Eric Sloan Museum, we've already had a straw hat making workshop, which was full, as well as a blacksmithing workshop, also full, and a trades up workshop. So those were the first, I think, 3 weekends in June. It's been super busy. And then we're moving along to broom making coming up on July 25th. So lots of things going on at the Sloan Museum. At the Henry Whitfield Museum, we have 2 exhibits. One is the exhibit that we had up last year in the Visitors Center, which is called History Beneath Our Feet, which is an exhibit that we have done in conjunction with the Southern Connecticut State University Department of Anthropology and their field school. So it looks at all of the items that have been excavated from our site over various archaeological digs over many years, actually. And we will be hosting the field school from Southern back on site between July 8th and August 7th, led by Dr. Bill Farley. And it is really fun to see. It is amazing. People just, y'all who are archaeologists know that people just come and they like set up a chair and they sit and watch you do your thing. Like, it is fascinating to people. So that is happening. We also have a little pop-up exhibit on it's called America's 250th at the Whitfield House's 387th, because that's how old the Whitfield House is. And that is featuring some highlights from our collection that have Revolutionary War era stories. The museum, if you remember, is emptied. Basically, collections are in storage, thanks to help from lots of our friends. But the museum is still open, and people can experience the building and walk through and learn more about the building. But the work will be starting there this summer in the next 2 weeks. So it will be interesting having visitors on site and having work be going on site. And then we'll be having the field school be going on site. So we've reserved the right to close with some notice if that ends up being necessary. Often you don't know when things are exactly going to happen with state contractors and state contracts. And so we decided to leave ourselves a lot of wiggle room, because it's an interesting experience no matter what the experience is. I think just the point of having, the oldest Western built house in the country, and talking about how preservation is ongoing and having people experience those actual preservation experiences is super interesting to visitors. So we're gonna be rolling with the punches this summer. They hosted Make Music Day on June 21st. I think that's the 5th year, and there's always a lovely turnout, between 60 and 100 people on the lawn. July 17th, they will be hosting a Trades Day. This is Trades Day that we run and started in its biggest version at the Eric Sloan Museum. We hosted at Newgate and at Whitfield. And so it's going to be busy. Also the contract for our decarbonization project, which is going to convert our heating cooling system. There is no cooling system currently in the building, but put in a geothermal heating and cooling system in the building, was actually signed. That's being paid for by greenergov.org, which is a Connecticut Green Bank project. And the project will cost about $900,000. I don't think it's going to start this year, because this is one of those things that just takes a bit and requires, there's going to be a little bit of archaeology. There's a little moving pieces, right? Moving pieces, but this is going to be exciting. And then at Newgate, so happy to announce that our Save America's Treasures grant is completed, basically in the nick of time before the contract ran out, but that also happens. The 4-story cell block has been stabilized for the moment. It is not completely, that is not a done project, but all of the organic matter has been removed. We are currently investigating what needs to happen in order to keep the growing organic matter out. Trickier, because we don't want to use traditional poisons, and we would like to be have an environmental solution if that is possible. So we have a lot of people having conversations about how that's going to be. And if anybody has any, suggestions for that, don't have to give them to me now, but just reach out, and happy to have conversations about that, because I know we're not the only people with that problem. And then work on Veets Tavern will start in the next few weeks, and that is part of another grant. It will be what I would call unglamorous work, but necessary work. But it will get us started towards the overall rehab of the building. So that's exciting. And then our play, The Slippery Truth, starts on July 10th. That's opening night. The performances will go all of July and August. They will be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and they will start at 5:30. And I will be there on the 10th. It was really good when I saw it in the last read through. So I am really excited, and the tickets are selling really well. Lots of programs at Newgate. And then finally, at Prudence Crandall Museum, this is a smaller, more visitor-centered experience with a much smaller campus. But we are moving ahead with a redo of a historic structures report for the John Carter House, which is the other dwelling on the campus of the museum. The last one was done 2014-15, and we need a redo in order to figure out what needs to be done there, which is, guess what, gonna be a lot. But working on checking off all of the deferred maintenance for all of the buildings on all 4 campuses, because then I can't really retire until we have that all straightened out. So it's a big priority of mine right now. So that's it for now. But thank you, and I would join Jonathan in wishing everybody a happy weekend.
Thank you, Liz. Jonathan, is there any new business?
None that I'm aware of.
And liaison with public and private agencies?
Yes, I believe Jane is here.
Hi, everybody. I just wanted to share with you an upcoming program that Preservation Connecticut is hosting in partnership with Ridgefield Historical Society. On Wednesday, July 15th at noon, we'll be at Ridgefield Historical Society for one of our on-site Talking About Preservation programs. Keith Marshall Jones III, founding president of the Ridgefield Historical Society and author of a new book, The Battle of Ridgefield, Benedict Arnold, the Patriot Militia, and the surprising 1777 battle that galvanized revolutionary Connecticut, will be our guest speaker. And so we'll have a wonderful program there. We hope to see you all join us, and you can register online at Preservation Connecticut.
Hope you muted, Jane.
Did you say I was muted?
No, Jane was muted. Last couple
the
of
last bit. Did you register at Preservation Connecticut? And we hope to see you there. I hope that was all you missed.
Thanks, Jane.
Excuse me.
Anyone from the public scheduled to speak? Jonathan? None? Well, that brings us to our adjournment. I wish everybody a happy 250th. And our next scheduled council meeting is Wednesday, August 5th. Please be sure to let Jonathan and myself know when you are not going to be able to attend a meeting in advance. It's always helpful to make sure that we have a quorum. And with that said, can I have a motion to adjourn? Nobody wants to leave.
So moved. Kent.
And a second?
From Andy.
And without objection, we stand adjourned until August 5th. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.